welcome back to another episode of the Racing Mindcast, the show that helps athletes slow down their minds so they can race past their limits. I'm Chris Haig.
And I'm Morgan Bickenbach Davies.
And today on the show, we are, because it is winter, and if you are listening in the Northern Hemisphere, you are most likely finishing up your racing season. I know Ironman, as of this recording, Ironman Arizona is going off, and that means it's the last of the North American, Northern Hemisphere Ironman. So everyone's starting to bunker down into winter training mode. Hopefully you've had a good racing season. Hopefully you've hit your PRs and hit your goals. And if not, then right now is a perfect opportunity for you to reflect upon the year and look at what you did right, what you did wrong, what you can improve on. Really take a good, honest, soul-searching look at what you've done this past year and what you can do to make it better. There's no point in trying to deny what went wrong, because it did.
Don't spend all winter wallowing.
Exactly. Don't spend all winter wallowing or trying to neglect your weaknesses, your limiters. For some that could be the swim. For some that could be the run. Don't neglect those. Don't say, "Oh, I'm fine on those. I don't need to work on them." But that's actually not going to be the focus of this show. There's a bunch of podcasts out there right now that's focusing on winter training. Today, in this podcast and in this video cast, what we wanted to do is we want to take more of a psychological approach to the off-season training, because one emphasis of this show is focusing on the Racing Mindcast. Exactly. How can you optimize your mind so that you can really optimize your performances? And winter is pretty much a good time to do this, I feel. Yeah. How do we do this? What steps can you take this winter to make sure you are optimizing your psychological state so that next year you're able to fire on all cylinders? Yeah. Both psychologically, emotionally, physically, and even if you want to get all woo-woo, spiritually. So the way I'm approaching my off-season this year is different from years past. Last year I finished up my racing season in October, with Tempe. And I went pretty much 2 weeks off and went straight into season part 2 in November. And I burned out, if you recall correctly, mid-February. I hit a peak in February and didn't climb out of that slump until pretty much right now. So I lost a huge chunk of the year, gained a lot in that huge chunk of the year, in many, many aspects. But as far as racing goes, it was a wash. Yeah. And I don't want to repeat that. No. So.
But a good bonus, positive on that note, is that you did fall in love again with the sport, and I think that is really important in part of what you gained, is that you needed that time to burn out, to figure out, okay, what is it about this that I want to reintroduce into my life in a sustainable way.
And another thing I gained is that last year, with all the moving and applications and transfer, moving internationally and going back to school, racing, I wouldn't have been able to race if I wanted to.
God, no.
And even if I had done a couple of races, like triathlon, I'm talking, I did do races, but as far as triathlon goes, even if I tried to do a bunch of triathlon, they wouldn't be good. They wouldn't be good races.
I don't think you would have survived it.
No.
And you probably would have put yourself way back in terms of, rediscovering what you want to do. So I think you would have had a longer depressive period if you had tried to push through with it.
From an outsider's perspective, before I start giving my tips, what do you think I could have done differently? Just from an outsider's perspective, because I'm gonna, as far as last winter, what could I have done differently from your perspective? And I think this is going to be valuable.
I think from an outsider's perspective and a spouse perspective, I saw you training with fear. That you were so afraid of not meeting the expectation of an age group qualifier. You said things like, this is my big break, this is my into becoming pro. So you had all of these expectations set up for yourself by the time that you had crossed the finish line of Tempe. So since October, you had been saying to yourself this mantra of, I need to top this. I need to top this. I want to go pro. I need to work my ass off. And you did, but you burned yourself so far into the ground that you couldn't have made it to the start line even if you tried. So what I saw was a man possessed, just training to beat your worst fears about yourself. You were training to overcome your worst fears about yourself. You were training 20 hours a week
Ish.
with absolute fear that you would confirm your worst fears, that that you can never make it, that you're not good enough, that you're a failure, that you burn bright and burn out, whatever, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And I saw you just on this hamster wheel, driven not by love of the sport, not by motivation of I really love the training process. It was just, I gotta do this, come hell or high water, because if I don't, I am nothing. In a nutshell.
In a nutshell, and I think you definitely summed it up perfectly. And I think that's what I'm doing differently this year is I don't really have a race season next year. All my training right now, and you actually asked me yesterday, what are you training for? You're training a lot right now. What are you training for? I'm actually not training for anything. I'm training because I actually enjoy it. Like I'm getting in touch with the enjoyment of training and enjoyment of the process. And that's what I'm training for right now. And I think a lot of people could benefit from 2 to 3 months of just enjoyable training. That doesn't mean slacking off and not doing unstructured training. What I'm saying is use this opportunity, use the workouts that you're doing now to get in touch and enjoy it. Enjoy the process and be open. Don't set concrete goals, just be open to the possibility of change. Being open to the possibility of, this training right now, this is just part of the process. Yeah. And how can I take this? Where can this training take me?
Caveat to that though, just anyone who is vulnerable to exercise dependence needs to keep a self-check on themselves that they are not addicted to it versus enjoying training for no purpose or for no race. If you're enjoying the training but you have a history or are susceptible to addictive personalities or just you become too dependent on it, you need to keep a self-check or have people around you that you are honest about how much you're training just so that you can keep an eye on yourself, that you don't get too codependent with your own training, because it is very addictive to become, not obsessed, but just to become so focused on your training and when am I going to get my next hit of endorphins. And I think it's important to be honest with yourself about that possibility. So yes, enjoy your training, but also be honest about yourself of, is it my be all and end all?
Right. And I think the winter months what I was saying before is the winter months are that perfect time of year to just not to have it as a be all and end all, but to purely enjoy it because you're not doing anything race specific, and put those races out of your mind. If you are training for a late season race, don't focus on it. Don't focus on those late season races. Focus on instead building a foundation both physiologically and psychologically
that is sustainable.
And that's what I'm focusing on here is you have to be sustainable, and that's the best part of this. That's the point of this season, is so that you can set up the rest of your year to be sustainable.
Yeah, but just because you're not training for anything specific doesn't mean that you should overcompensate with more training because you have the time.
Right. I'm taking umbrage with it, just the terminology of...
It's just such a fine line for people who are vulnerable to that I think it is important to maintain some degree of structure. And if you have a coach, to make sure that your coach knows that psychological weakness about yourself, and that they give you limits, not like, so that they say to you, okay, have fun, do these things, enjoy it, but don't go above X numbers a week.
And I think
Just so that you can rein yourself back if that is a tendency.
But I think that's the importance of a coach,
Oh, yeah.
is to not burn you out and
Absolutely.
to reel you back in this situation, and not to jump straight back into 20 hours a week.
But with
and
that,
I can't think of a single athlete who I have right now who is above 20 hours a week, nor would I want them to unless they're in the Southern Hemisphere.
I think it's important to know both sides of that coin, and to be honest with your coach about how much you are doing is very, very important, because otherwise, why do you have a coach?
Right. Too true. So right now, we're not going to focus on, you need to, change your diet this year to match your training. We're not going to get into that because there's plenty of better podcasts out there. But from a psychological say, use this off-season training. The first thing you need to do is use it as a emotional reset.
Yep.
Don't focus on the race. Focus on yourself. Focus on the process. Focus on getting in touch with your body again and enjoying where these winter months can take you.
Settle into your training. Don't let it be driven by the anticipation of a race.
And I think along those lines, it's important to incorporate things you don't typically do.
Right.
So whether that's cross-country skiing, or whether that's winter sports, or trail running, or mountain biking. Now's the perfect opportunity. That's not going to hit or be a detriment to your training.
No.
And so
it enriches it.
It enriches.
It enriches it enriches your different parts of your brain. It enriches parts of your neuromuscular firing, because you are putting yourself in an environment that you're not used to, especially if you train predominantly on a treadmill or on a trainer. Going outside, you are firing all kinds of different neural pathways that you need to become a better athlete. You're firing more muscle fibers when you are in an environment where you have to be alert about the next root or rock.
This is where Dr. Jean Cote, my advisor, he's big on, especially in the early years of sampling. And I think right now, especially for adult athletes, now is sampling time.
Yeah.
You should sample while you have the opportunity and take advantage of it.
And include your kids if you've got kids. Go cross country skiing with your kids.
Have
fun outdoors.
And this actually brings up my next point is Sonia, one of my athletes. She came out and said Saturday and Sunday are no training days for me. I'm going to the slopes with my kids. I want to, those aren't going to be training days.
But they're active days.
But they're active days, and it's important for a coach. And this is what I'm working. Is that's okay.
Oh, that's great.
We can adjust.
More than okay.
We don't have to worry about our goals. We'll do what we can in the 5 days, weekdays that we have, and then those other 2 days, they're perfect.
Yeah.
Take them.
Yeah.
And then we'll structure the rest of the week around those days, because those days, honestly, are more important than the rest of the 5.
Oh, absolutely. In so many ways. And it probably recharges her to come back stronger for the week.
And that's what I've noticed with her performances, is she's gotten better year after year because of those breaks.
Yeah.
So that's the psychological mindset, is it is a break, but it's an active break.
Yeah, it's an active recovery. It's you can do yoga, you can do all kinds of stuff outdoors. You can become a full person again. You're not under any pressure to meet those those peak week blocks. Those it's just about having fun and staying active.
And I think if you get in touch with those feelings and emotions of joy and pleasure from the things that you're doing, the rest of your year will take care of itself.
It's set.
If you have goals of Kona qualifying or setting a PR at a late season marathon, you're going to get those if you step back and just enjoy your time right now.
Yeah.
And enjoy the process, which I feel like is becoming quickly an overused term.
Enjoying the process.
Yeah, enjoy the process.
But
to steal a '90s phrase, soul train.
Oh.
You do back in the '90s where you had the soul surfers or the soul skaters. I feel like right now it's the winter's time for soul training, but. Anyway, I think that's a good. I think that's a good place to wrap up this section of the podcast.
Impromptu '90s reference.
Yes, and if you were raised on the Disney Channel like I was, I'm referring to it was Johnny Tsunami, and there's another. If you know the other roller skating movie that I'm thinking of that was on the Disney Channel, let me know. Put it in the comments below. I'm gonna have to look it up on IMDb in the break, but. If you know it, brownie points to you. You are a kid of the 90s.
All I can think is Care Bears.
I'm sure they were all about the process too.
Oh, yeah.
Anyway, that concludes part 1 of the Racing Mindcast. We will be back with part 2, Buy It or Bonk, in just a little bit. And now it is time for everyone's favorite part of the episode.
And by everyone, he means him.
Me. Buy It or Bonk. And what do we have on today's menu?
We have a vegan, I think, yeah, it's definitely vegan, from Sunwarrior Protein.
Yep, Sunwarrior makes the athlete protein blend that you can pick up at Whole Foods.
Yeah.
I actually haven't seen them in a while. I know they have them at a couple places, but they've been scaling back. I haven't seen. Anyway,
well, they're making it they're going into protein bars. I can't use big words right now, apparently. So their line of protein bars is called Sol Good or Sol Good. Yeah, like
Sun.
Sol Good.
Like Sunwarrior,
Or-
sun.
or-
Sol.
Or
Sol.
okay.
Sol. It's like, it means sun.
Okay, you sounded like Hercules or something. So Sol Good protein bars, and they have this flavor is coconut cashew.
You can actually see the coconut pieces in there. Those
And
are coconut flakes, and
giant
you can
kosher,
see the cashew as well.
giant kosher pieces.
Mazel tov!
Cashew pieces.
Sold!
Okay, so macro-wise, 62-gram bar, 228, which is very specific, calories.
I believe that.
10 grams of protein, 26 grams of carbs, 17 grams of fiber, 3 sugar, 17 grams of protein. It smells like a macaroon.
And you definitely get the cashew. Definitely get the coconut. Good texture. They delivered here. I'm gonna give it a bunch of points for being vegan. Macros were solid. I would like it in the 180 to 190. So
It
but
does.
still,
It does have the protein, the vegan protein texture.
but
kind of-
I don't mind that. I like that better than the whey almost.
Yeah, it's more granular, and it's less water soluble, so it's around in the mouth longer. It's a little mild for me. Like it's not very sweet.
Maybe that's why I like it.
Well, it's okay. I mean, and I am docking at marks for the chunks of cashew.
And
Yeah,
coconut.
that's cashew. The coconut doesn't bother me. It's the nut chunks. Don't say anything. But I would give that a solid 6.5.
I'm gonna go 8 on this. I'm gonna give it a buy, and I'm gonna give it an 8.
It's just, I'm thinking it was kind of expensive
Okay. Yeah. I'll do
and
that.
not very sweet, and the texture is a little off-putting. So I'm docking marks for that.
I'm gonna hold to my 8.
Original text, original flavor, like that is a good flavor. I think they also have cinnamon roll and blueberry. I think those are the 2 other flavors. I do like that they don't have any chocolate flavors, but that's just me. Yeah, so I would say 65 or 6.5. But possible buy if it was cheaper.
All right, so you would put it in the if you see it worth a try
Yes.
category.
But if it's over $5, no.
Yeah. Yeah. Was it over 5?
I can't.
I think it was
check.
the same price as a Quest bar though.
I think
Anyway.
it was like 4 after taxes.
Canadian.
Yeah.
So that's like $3.50 American.
So in that realm, but on the higher side.
Awesome. With that concludes the Buy It or Bonk episode with the So Good Sunwarrior bar.
I just
And-
hear it as so good.
Maybe that's the edge they were going for. Anyway, we'll be back with part 3, The Year of Fear. And welcome back to part 3, The Year of Fear. We're changing it up this week. We are doing a collaboration. Because this is a couple's fear, because we both have this fear, and that fear is
Buying new clothes.
buying new clothes or buying
Buying
clothes.
clothes, yeah.
Clothes. Because I think we are going to go to a
Secondhand store.
secondhand store because
we're poor.
yeah. Anywho, we don't buy.
No,
Clothes.
we
Like,
avoid it.
I
I
think-
avoid the change room like, something I avoid.
Yeah, the reason why I don't buy clothes is just because I feel. I'm
it's multi-fact. It's multi.
I don't like how my body feels in new clothes. It's just because I've got my, I've got my comfort clothes.
Yeah.
I've got my sweatpants that I
clothes
like.
that are
I've got the
fitted.
orange shirt that everyone knows because I like it. It's comfortable and I just feel good in it. And if
And you
like
can
whenever
see through it.
it's still got life in it. Anyway. For me, buying clothes and getting in new clothes, it just makes me feel uncomfortable in my body. Like I've gained weight magically by putting on those new clothes.
Yeah.
And that's the reason why I don't like buying new clothes. So I have the same wardrobe that I've had for the past like 10, 15 years. Excuse Ethan, he's clip-clocking over the floor.
He's checking something out.
He's checking something out. But so that's why I'm afraid of getting new clothes. It's just the way I feel in them. That's the reason why I'm venturing out and getting new clothes.
For me, it's a bunch of different reasons. Like, there's like the piece of my head that says you're not worth new clothes. Like that, like you're, you aren't worth spending money on. Even if it's secondhand, it's just that kind of that little niggling, monster brain part that just says you're not worth it. It's the anti-self-care part of your brain that just says, you're not worth it. The other part is I am always afraid of being a different size than I was last time I went.
Yes.
Or even if it's like a different brand of clothing, you might be a different size, but I am terrified of being a different number than I was in my memory of going last time. And change rooms, seeing myself in a mirror. Even like I don't look in mirrors ever. I just avoid looking at myself in mirrors whenever I can. So editing this video is super hard, just so you know.
And she's doing a great job too. So like and subscribe just for that. She is. I'm very proud of her.
I just focus on you when I'm editing.
My boyishly good charms.
You're boyishly good. Anyway, so seeing myself in especially a full length mirror just freaks me the hell out. And just so last couple times I have bought clothes, I've just guesstimated to say, okay, can I fit in this? Does my body fit in this kind of size? And more often than not, it does, just because I know myself enough to, and sometimes I err on the side of too big. But going into a change room and actually changing is really hard for me to do, especially in between putting on the new clothes and taking off the old clothes. That's the hard part. But also, like, if it doesn't fit, it just, nothing looks good when it doesn't fit.
And it's just, for me, like, I'm always worried, like, I used to be this size, and I'm afraid that size has changed. And then also, like, when people, I'm afraid, like, if people see me shopping in, like, he's shopping in the extra large section, or he shouldn't be shopping in the small section, he really is large or an extra large.
That's like me in grocery stores. I'm so afraid that I'll meet someone I know, and they'll look in my cart and be like, oh, I never thought I'd see you eat that. That kind of thing. Just because if you are someone with a public eating disorder, people will make comments about, oh, I never thought it, someone with an eating disorder would ever eat that.
They're not malicious or malevolent.
More,
they're just unaware of how it affects you.
It's ignorant curiosity.
But they're doing it. They're doing it because
mouth disease.
Yeah, exactly. They're unaware of how it affects you emotionally.
Yeah, and for change rooms, it's just that much more heightened. And then if there's someone, working in the change room, they usually comment, and it's usually to make you buy the stuff.
Oh, that looks good.
Yeah. But just having someone looking at me scares me and just makes me feel really self-conscious. And then there's too much, quiet time in the store to talk myself out of things. So I think it's good that we're doing this together. So
we'll put those on Instagram. We'll have a couple bonus episodes with that, and when
haul.
We'll do a haul, a Salvation Army haul. With that, I think we stay posted. We'll have a little fashion show. With that, I think that wraps up this episode. Everyone, especially in this winter time when you're thinking about the years to come and what the year has been, always remember, don't forget to breathe.